Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
Tonight, turn down the noise of the day and focus on the rest with AGZ, the nightly drink for winding down and resting up. New from AG1. AGZ supports your body's natural sleep cycle with clinically studied key herbs, adaptogens, and minerals in amounts supported by research. And no melatonin, helping you wake feeling rested. Wind down, rest up with AGZ. Learn more at drinkagz.com.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Well, today, as always, we're going to talk about government overreach. We're going to talk about how sometimes they want to take your stuff. And I know you're thinking, not in America, Chuck, that's never happened. But sometimes it does. So we're going to talk about some of those sometimes. But first, I kind of want to tell you why I'm thinking about it. One of the things, which is both an exciting and good thing, and then also a horrible and terrifying thing that I would point out, is silver went over $50 an ounce. And that's a big thing. It's kind of, you know how they say there's like thresholds that it never goes over, and that's a new one. That's a big jump.
Now, is it because silver is more valuable or the dollar is less valuable?
Well, that's where the negative part comes into that. It turns out that the negative part. So right now I'm looking, it's $52.18. I wasn't sure how it was gonna play out. And today is, I don't even know what day it is, October 18th, first day of hunting season in the great state of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, Chuck, why are you here and not out in the woods? I am saying the same thing. This is the sacrifice I make for you guys. But tomorrow morning, and the deer will still be there. It's good. So anyway, silver, $52. I saw it go down like 3% the other day, and I'm like, oh, is it all fallen? And no, it's right where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. So the problem is, there's Dan Bongino had come out and talked about the bond market kind of falling apart too. Mm-hmm. And I guess he gave an analogy of, well, the problem is if you buy a bond and that when it matures in 10 years, it's supposed to be worth, you buy a $75 bond in 10 years, it's worth 110, whatever it is, right? I don't know the specifics, but the idea is you buy it for $75, you wait 10 years, then it turns out with inflation, now it's worth $80 or even $65.
Right.
In buying power, right? Like it's still worth the promised 110.
Right.
But
that money isn't worth what it was worth when you bought it.
That makes people holding bonds kind of like, this is a shitty thing to do. This should maybe be something I should get rid of. And you guys probably already know this because we talk about this kind of thing, but it turns out the only way the government gets money is either by taxing the crap out of us. Well, now we like to put tariffs on people. And it turns out they sell bonds. Selling bonds is really how we get money. That's why you've heard that China has all these bonds that we have. That's a thing. Mind you, they're always like selling them off. The reason they're selling them off is exactly
not a good investment anymore.
With inflation, it kind of goes crazy. Well, so you do run the risk of some kind of big free-for-all. And that's, I guess, what lately has me a little rattled as far as, but obviously as preppers, anything comes up, right? We have EMPs, we have, war with all these countries. People say, oh, well, we can't have war with China because they count on our economy. But if our economy is going
Not
to
now.
collapse,
Well, yeah.
yeah, what do they care, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, I don't want to get too off task because obviously this applies. You figure out the scenarios of when and why, and I know we want to get to the meat within the nut. We can always talk about why prepare. That's always an ongoing,
Mhm.
episode here. But yeah, that's the thing. So basically, the government way back under Obama, we were all terrified. It was March 16th, 2012. Obama had an executive order 13603, and it was called the National Defense and Resource Preparedness Executive Order. All right.
Mhm.
And basically, it it gave broad powers to confiscate private emergency supplies such as food, water, fuel, and resources during a crisis. Now, this actually came from the Defense Production Act of 1950, was like the original law, and this just kind of expanded it to basically made it more modern, uh,
Mhm.
to apply to things that are, more relevant. But it basically, the key provisions were that he could prioritize contracts with private companies to, allocate towards the government resources. People thought like steel, energy, defense, that kind of thing, right? Um,
Toilet paper.
it allows the requisition of property. Now, this was if you want to really scrutinize the bill, it was section 201E, and it allowed for including equipment, materials, or facilities deemed essential for national defense, but only with a fair compensation to owners. So, I mean, the money that is now worthless, they'll give you some of
They'll
that.
give you some of that. Nice.
Yeah, you can,
Nice. You take
similar,
your house and your car because we need that. But
right. Now,
here's
eminent
a suitcase full
domain,
of paper.
right. But now they don't want you to confuse this with seizure. Because if we were seizing your property, we wouldn't give you a receipt and act like you might be compensated somehow.
Right.
We're going to tell you that, oh, we'll give you something. Don't even worry about it. Fair value. And remember, your shit's used, Kevin. It's already been on the shelf. You know that you lose, what is it, 10-20% when you walk out of the showroom?
That's right.
Same thing. I always call it the yard sale price.
Yeah.
What's it gonna
Yeah.
be
If you've
worth
ever
when I
been in a car accident, you know how that goes. You know what I mean? You wreck your
Yeah.
car and then you owe 10 grand on it, and they're like, yeah, it's worth 3.
Yeah, and you're like, "But how?" Because we were good, when we talked at the yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm talking about. So, Kevin, what type of things are they seizing? Like, what's the government really after? That's
Yeah.
that's what everybody wants to know, and then we'll talk about, how we can protect it a little bit.
All right. So there's a list of 3 things, and I'm going to go through the list here, and then we can go individually. Um, so first on the list is immediate needs for survival.
Mm,
Number 2 is ease of transport, things that they can take and move.
mm,
And then number 3 is potential for control.
mm.
Let's start off with immediate needs for survival. So what are some of the things that the
Well,
government might
I
need
think
to reallocate?
all right. So I think as preppers, we all are like, oh, my long-term food storage. They're gonna take all my buckets of rice and
Right.
everything like that, right? So that comes to mind. But I think on the government's list, I think the number one is gonna be generators.
That's right. That's right. Power failures are a big deal. And you know what I mean? Hospitals, they have generators. I think it's required by state law, if not federal law.
Okay.
But how long are those generators going to work? And those generators don't necessarily power everything in the hospital. Maybe just critical areas, right?
Right. And generators, it turns out, run off gas.
They
So
do.
it sounds like gas might be on that list.
Right. Right. So they're probably not going to seize like your gas cans in your garage.
So
They might be seizing gas from gas stations, though,
I think that's more accurate. I think you're
meaning that you
correct.
might not be able to refill your tank.
But do you not think that the local police department might be at the point where, like, hey, the federal government just took our gas tanks and our stuff, so now we're ready for your 5-gallon cans.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, maybe if you were passing through a community checkpoint, because for security, because they're protecting you,
Right.
and they were like, you got a lot of gas cans in there. Squad car could use a little filling up. I'm just saying. All right.
Mhm.
So generators during Katrina, they did take generators. Um, and World War II, they seized industrial facilities under the Emergency Powers Act to support war production, right?
Right.
That's remember all those factories that were doing their part. But
Mhm.
it was kind of like you were doing your part because you got stew. Yeah, you know how it is.
Right.
Anyway, it turns out, so this would be like probable in like widespread infrastructure failure, that kind of thing. I kind of skipped over food. Now that actually would kind of have a high probability. They can prioritize or requisition food resources to prevent hoarding and ensure distribution. Because remember how they passed out all those water bottles when FEMA took them at like, well, both Katrina, we heard a lot of stories of
Mhm.
finding warehouses full of supplies that never got delivered.
Yeah.
Or you might also remember during the oh, what was it? Puerto Rico during that hurricane. Remember
Yes.
they were like, oh, we sent out all these supplies and then
Mhm.
nothing, like nothing
Well,
got
I
there.
that's not true. I remember seeing
You
Donald
got
Trump
some.
throwing rolls of paper towels at people.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think that
Is
that
it like Oprah, like where I got one for you and one for you?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, there was like 5 or 6 paper towels he threw out to people. So that was a big, you know, I guess you eat them. I don't know what you're supposed to do with paper
Kevin,
towels when you don't have any power or food, but
Kevin, wiping your butt is always a priority. All right. So this first list is what do we call it? What's the first category?
first category, that was immediate needs for
For
survival.
survival. So
Yeah,
fuel, food,
generator.
generators. There are some other ones that are going to fall into multiple categories.
Mhm.
Like, I would argue maybe firearms could be something that's for your immediate survival, right? Now, obviously, the government doesn't need an extra firearm. They probably have enough for all their people. Because, right, weren't we loading up the IRS with, you know, machine guns and shit? Didn't we
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
So number 2 on the list though is ease of transport. So this is the things that they physically can move easily. And I would say that, firearms are on that list.
And so
And
is your personal generator. Yeah.
more valuable to them. But I mean, if you're gonna try and protect your ammunition, they're gonna make sure you can't do that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, Kevin. If you're using a common caliber, which you're thinking, oh, well, that's good because then I can have, they say, a battlefield find
Hmm.
where I shoot somebody and they have lots of 9 millimeters. So now I have a
Right.
whole lot of 9 millimeter and, things like that. Turns out it goes both ways because the government's going to be like, you have 9 millimeter and I like 9 millimeter.
Right.
So this could help us out.
Right.
You know,
Most police organizations carry it's 9 mm. I think it's Beretta is the most common one, but I'm not
It
sure.
used to be. I think they're
Yeah.
all Glock now. They
Yeah.
they were Beretta all day. Yes. The
Hmm.
Beretta, because what it was, it came from a government surplus. Like, because that's what they used for the military sidearm.
Yeah.
And then when they upgraded, now you find a lot of South America and everybody's got Berettas. That's where, they all ended up.
Hmm.
Probably that, what was that deal with Obama, Fast and whatever,
Oh, the Fast and Furious. Yeah.
where we were just
We're
throwing guns over the border as fast as we could.
tracing our guns, and then people use them to shoot
Right.
Americans.
Right. So anyway, yeah, but they do 9 millimeter Glocks are probably where the majority of law enforcement end up landing on that one.
Hmm.
Um, but definitely that's something that could be taken away and commandeered. Now,
Commandeered. Right.
obviously they would say for their safety. Now, a lot of the time though, they use words See, you're thinking, oh, I don't remember the government coming and seizing stuff, but they had fun words they called like rationing
Hmm.
and anti-hoarding
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
things
love
like
that one. That was a big one. Price gouging is one that
that.
they say can't be price gouging, dude. You gotta sell it for a
Right.
loss or whatever. It's an emergency, bro.
And it's like the government created the price gouging by the inflation, though, is kind of
Hmm.
the whole, the things. It's just you need to prioritize what has value, right? And
Right.
that's where that gray area comes in. Now, as far as hoarding ammunition, you need a lot of it. Here's where I got worried. Turns out, well, I didn't get worried for me. I got worried for everybody else out there because turns out I go to the range and I practice and I know how to shoot.
Hmm.
But Kevin, you're not going to like this statistic. It's going to upset you. During the Afghan and Iraqi wars, the
Hmm.
US government averaged 450,000 bullets per kill.
Nice. Nice. So they're
Kevin,
just shooting. They're
you
just
need
shooting.
an ammo supply. So when they say, "Oh, you have 10,000 rounds," you're crazy.
You can't even take out one
I
person with
can't
that.
even get one guy with that. I mean, really, that 30 round magazine,
Hmm.
they're like, that's ridiculous. Is it? Is it? Because how is it that you can sneak up on a deer? And I got to say, deer are a little more skittish than people are usually.
Hmm.
Like they're like, around the forest. And so I'm just saying, Kevin. All right. Now, what's category number 3, I think?
Potential for control. Now, this is kind of a weird one here because it's on the list, but I mean, as far as controlling large groups of people, what do you want to do to take care of that?
Well, Kevin, the first one, I think we go back to guns. So I feel like guns and ammo are on all 3 categories.
Right.
All right. So that's like maybe something you want to protect. I'm just saying. One we didn't touch on, I skipped over. I don't really know where it would fall here. Definitely ease of stealing and ease of essential need would be medical supplies. Um,
Yeah.
I skipped that one. Also, don't forget about like propane, things like that. Things like that can be a thing. Gas, diesel, and propane. In the 70s, we had rationing, limiting personal stockpiles. They actually, did. You could not have a stockpile. And the same thing. Remember gold and silver. Turns out that's something they can steal and take. That's why
Right.
that kind of jumped out at me as something like, hey, all of a sudden silver's worth something. Maybe we need to worry about it a little bit. So just be aware of that and things that you might want to protect. Anyway, sorry. You asked me about how could they control people. So firearms, yes. But now I would say communication equipment. Now, this would
Right.
be your radios, your ham radio stuff. Um, it turns out you guys probably wouldn't think this based on history, but sometimes they don't want misinformation, they say, getting out. Or could it be anti current administration information getting out? That sometimes upsets people.
Yeah.
So ham radios and all that stuff is definitely something. And obviously, the problem with that is anytime you use it, then they can kind of triangulate and figure out who's using it and where they're keeping it. So you want to kind of think of that stuff as like portable. And it turns out you not you don't need to be like a huge facility to be able to triangulate and figure out where a signal's coming from. It
Hmm.
turns out most units can have somebody who can kind of narrow in down on you. So it's something you have to be very cautious and very limited on, your transmissions. So that is something to think about. Now, I don't know, any more items, Kevin, you're thinking of?
um. Yeah. I mean, you touched on medical supplies, and I think that's a big thing. Um. It would really be things that when I have a friend that has family in Yemen, and he was going to visit them. And he said he went to like a pharmacy and just like cleared out their shelves with things like Tylenol and like aspirin and basic stuff like that, because they didn't have any of that basic stuff. You know what I mean? The stuff that we just get off the shelf, they couldn't get to it. They didn't have access to any of that stuff.
Now you're
let
starting
alone like
throwing out the toilet paper, aren't you?
yeah. Let alone stuff like penicillin and amoxicillin and things like that. But just the basic supplies, they couldn't get that. It's something. And now they might not come clean out your medicine cabinet, right? But they might not let you go get more at the pharmacy because they might clear your pharmacies out.
I think that's definitely a more likely scenario, is being limited on your buying. So, and when you purchase in the future, they become hoarding. And the thing is too, they might go to like, say your big distribution centers, right? Like Sam's Club or whatever. And they might say, hey, we're going to take all your cool, cheap survival stuff, like, and what I'm talking about is the 50-pound bags of rice, the, as you said, the bulk Tylenol or the bulk Motrin or that kind of thing, right? All these supplies might disappear, and then you're left with the little ones, and you're paying a premium for them now, and two, they're going to run out very quickly when everybody's just buying at that level. So having that stuff secured beforehand is definitely something that could help you out.
Yeah. Now, a lot of this stuff, when we talk about it, as far as the government, acquiring these things in an emergency, we're actually talking about these types of things: grocery stores and gun stores and pharmacies. This is stuff that they're probably not going to kick in your front door trying to get. It just means that if you don't already have it, you're not going to be able to get it.
Right. I think that's definitely true, but I think there's also the possibility of, hey, this guy spent $3,000 on long-term food storage. And, it's funny. I tried to get Grok to fess up some stuff, and they were like, it would be ridiculous. If you don't spend over $10,000, nobody reports that to the government, and they don't have any information of what you bought.
Yeah,
but you don't think that they know that companies like My Patriot Supply exist? Do you really think that the government doesn't know about them? And I don't mean because they're good, or Wise Food Storage or any of these. And do you think they wouldn't go in or even already be monitoring, who their customer lists are?
Yeah, you might think that like, you use Google or Amazon and to buy stuff that you want, and obviously the government doesn't have that information, right? That would be an invasion of privacy. They'd need a warrant for that. No, they don't. They just Google sells that to them. Like, it's just, a daily thing. They just send them out a list.
And the thing is, if you've bought even just like 2 months a long-term food storage, they're like, well, I wouldn't come to my house for 2 months. That would be ridiculous. But do they now know that, hey, this is a guy who kind of prepares for things and might have other stuff that we might want? Maybe a generator. I'm just saying, so it's just something to think about, right? Something to kind of say, hey, I might be on their radar. So if I am on their radar, which, like, if you had a survival podcast, you might be on their radar.
That would be like a dumb thing.
That would be stupid, right? So, okay. Or you're somebody who buys tickets to go to prepper camp, you might be on a list, right? I mean, I'm just saying, you're like kind of one of the crazies. Just saying, putting that out there. So if you're that guy and you're on a list, what could you do, Kevin? How could you kind of hide your stuff a little bit? So I think the first thing is storing in multiple locations.
Right.
The big thing is, like, if you come in my house and you see, oh, he's got a safe in the bedroom, and look, there's 3 guns in there, and that's way more than a normal person would have, then they would take those 3 guns and be like, we got his guns. We got them. Now,
that's it.
A clever man would maybe have his other gun, the other one that he has, in a different location. See, you didn't think about that,
Right.
did you?
Like in the back of his boat that sank.
Right, in the back of his boat. Exactly. So by having it, and you're saying, well, Chuck, yeah, but they might check your boat because they've heard about boat accidents
Hmm.
and guns. So that might be somewhere they might also look. So if you had a third place, like buried in the backyard in maybe a cash tube, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
then perhaps they would you would maybe be able to keep that gun safe. That third
Hmm.
one. That would be the one they don't find. I'm just saying, and you don't want to put like just garbage back there, right? You want to have something that's still worth shooting. I'm just saying.
Right.
And you can buy an AR-15 that's worth shooting for like $400. You know what I'm just saying?
Hmm.
Like in a movie or something.
Yeah. over oil when you're going to store it long term in a place like that.
That's a secret of the pros right there.
Hmm. Now, another way they might find out is if the government has a list of all the people that own firearms. And you say, well,
Okay.
that's actually against federal law. You
It is
can't
there
have
is a federal law that
Mhm.
says you cannot have a list of private gun sales or any of that kind of stuff, or regular, not private gun
Right.
sales.
Gun
So
Owners of America, though,
what?
just had a statement that said Attorney General Pam Bondi has convinced a federal judge to order 2A FND to turn over a list of its members, which would include licensed importers, licensed manufacturers, licensed dealers, collectors, member of Firearms Policy Coalition, members of the Second Amendment Foundation, and members of the Louisiana Shooting Association. So
All right.
that's a lot of gun owners right there.
That is a lot of gun owners. Kevin, I might be on that list. I can't be sure.
I don't join any of those organizations because I feel like
It's because you're
that's
scared,
the
Kevin.
list. That's the list that they're looking for. You know what I mean? If you are a member of the NRA, they know you own a firearm,
Well,
right?
I try not to put the sticker on my car. Actually,
Right.
I think the NRA has come a long way. The guys, what's his name? Colin, the guy out there representing is awesome, and I get behind everything he says. But the NRA has kind of lost their way at some point, and they're starting to come back. So
Are they?
I'm a little more impressed with
Yeah,
what they're doing. But
been pretty much signed off on the NRA, but
I understand
I'll
that
have to look into it.
when they were giving Chuck Schumer an A for being pro gun, I was like, you guys might might not know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Anyway, the FFL, you're saying that there's companies that are getting sued and have lists of firearms. The regular gun dealer, right? If you have an FFL, federal firearms license, to sell and buy guns, aka the gun store, it turns out they have something called the acquisition and disposition log. Now, this can be a physical logbook or it can be a digital logbook. Turns out, set up by the ATF, the digital one, and they can have access to it. But
Mhm.
they're not allowed access to a searchable list. But it turns out they set the framework. I wonder if there was a way that if you had a bunch of files that you could search them. Like, is there technology that exists to
I
do
don't
that
know. I
kind of
mean,
thing?
can you imagine having to go through an entire list of thousands of people?
Well, Kevin, if you were after everybody on the list,
Well, that's true.
then
You have the list. You're
it is
good.
really a problem, right? So
Yeah.
that's something to think about. There was the Firearm Owner Protection Act of 1986, 18 USC 926A, that specifically banned a centralized registry. But if we kept it at every gun store instead of centralized,
Hmm.
then that would be okay. And I would point out, and I got to say, honestly, a lot of gun stores do have a physical log because of this in order
Hmm.
to protect their customers.
Right.
Um, so that is something to think about. Like, honestly, I think a lot of your gun stores are doing everything they can to look out for you because these are people who think like us, right?
Hmm.
They're people who love guns that much. And if you love guns that much, you probably love freedom that much.
Yeah.
So, you know, now I
There is a gray area though that I've seen people talking about if a gun store goes out of business.
mm,
then that list can go to
Right.
the
It never
government
goes away. It gets
Right.
turned over back to the ATF. Right.
Right.
And now the beauty is if you live in a free state, you can still have private firearm sales.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out I live in a free state where you can sell handguns privately without anybody being involved.
Yeah, I live in New York, and so that's
Yeah,
not the
no,
case.
you no. That's not going to happen. You can't do any of that. So I'm just
I have
saying
to
those
ask a
private
judge
sales,
permission to buy
right?
a handgun.
So obviously, I sold all my guns on Thursday, and I didn't even know the guy. I mean,
Don't
I
have
think
them
I
anymore,
think
huh?
we're supposed to like know the guy. Like, I don't even understand how it works because I know when I sold a handgun, I called the sheriff, and this was a while back. The law has actually gotten looser to
Looser
sell
since
a
then?
handgun in North Carolina. But at the time, they were like, "Oh, either they need a concealed carry permit or they need a we issued permits." Turns out they decided that was racist. Um, you had to go to the sheriff and buy or get a permit to purchase a handgun. And then it turned out they were like, "Oh, well, they just wanted to make sure that you were white before they gave you the permit." They were like,
Makes sense.
that's not really cool. You can't do that kind of thing."
Mhm.
And then I believe, because whenever they campaign on it now, they're like, "We got rid of those Jim Crow era laws." And then
Mhm.
we're like, "Proud of you guys. We
Yeah.
did it last Thursday. And, you
Uh-huh.
guys are really stepping up." Um, yeah, there's a lot of things about, America loves freedom. And you want to make sure that the government overreach isn't a little too much.
It's
And
been
that's the
creeping
problem.
lately, man.
It's
It's really
been
been
creeping.
creeping.
And so these laws already exist. So you do need to think about, protecting your stuff. I guess,
Yeah, I
right?
don't
Anytime you have anything, you want to protect it. I've heard of people having a free country and wanting to protect it from like a king or a dictator. Is that a thing going
Yeah,
on
so
these
that's going
days?
on today. Big No Kings rally. Mike Johnson said that he's the Speaker of the House of Representatives. He said that it's the Hate America rally. So wherever you stand on that, I don't know
Because
if
America has always
No
been,
Kings.
like pro king.
Yeah, right, right. I don't know
And
when that changed. Apparently, pro King is now pro America. I don't know what the rules are, but I guess it's all uh Antifa and what did he said it was a bunch of Hamas.
yep.
So
Because
I guess
Kevin,
my
if the
neighbor actually
Muslims are doing it,
yeah, my neighbor actually had a Biden sign over there. And if he's Hamas, I probably should go over and do something about it. You know what I mean?
you
I need to
should
go
probably
kick in his
report
fucking
him. Yeah.
door and make
Yeah.
sure he's not planning an attack.
Kevin,
They're
citizen
terrorists, dude.
arrest.
Don't you know Hamas is terrorists? That means 75 million Hamas members in the United States is what they're saying.
Kevin, you're killing me.
So whatever,
Um,
dude.
I did
Everybody's a
just get,
terrorist now, dude. Everybody's a terrorist. Terrorist doesn't even mean shit anymore because they just call everybody a terrorist.
exactly. Now you're getting it. Now you're getting it. That's the thing. I feel like everybody's just fighting against everybody, and that's kind of how they want us to be.
Yeah, as long
And
as you
it
don't
doesn't
talk to
have
your
to be
neighbors,
open like that.
you just have to make assumptions about them, you know?
There you go. You can tell usually by how people look, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you know.
Yeah. Well, my neighbor looks like a long-haired hippie. You know what I mean?
Patchouli,
Mm-hmm.
marijuana smoking.
I'm not sure, but I think I saw him outside hugging a tree.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna have to go over and kick his ass. Make sure.
Kick his ass.
Make sure shit's not going down over there.
Anyway, we were actually supposed to mention this in the beginning, but it turns out none of this is legal advice. And turns out we're not saying you should hide your stuff from the government. We're just saying it's something people might do like in a movie.
Yeah.
This was just for entertainment.
Yeah, this
Just
is just
So,
for fun.
if you want to know some other good ideas of things that you probably shouldn't be doing, you might want to check out survival and basic badass podcast.com. And you can check out our website. We have an email list you can sign up for. That would probably be a good idea. If you have thoughts, concerns, things you want to tell us about, you can, or maybe show ideas, you could email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. We always appreciate it. We do read them and we do answer them. We're sometimes a little slower than the other kids, but we're actually pretty good these days. I'm right on it because I sit at work and I'm like, oh, I got an email. I got an email. It actually like flashes up on the screen when we get one. So I'm like, oh, on like the phone or the tablet. So I'm like, I know what's going on.
You're ready.
So with that, I would say stay safe and we will talk to you guys next week.